Welcome. Tonight's story will take you far from the known, into the hidden corners of reality. If you enjoy these journeys into the unexplained, consider subscribing to hear more. Now, settle in and let your mind drift beyond the veil.
I'm Staff Sergeant Ryan Cole, 29 years old, infantry. I've spent the last 6 years moving between deployments and training cycles, mostly in the Mojave and parts of Arizona. When you're in the military, you get used to orders dropping. Without warning, you learn not to ask too many questions. So when I got the call to report to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, for a special temporary assignment, I didn't expect it to come with a briefing that made my skin crawl. They didn't tell me much, just to pack light, bring my gear, and keep my mouth shut. The convoy left early morning, so the sun was just starting to crack the horizon, turning the desert pink and gold. It's the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like the calm before a storm. The ride out to the site was longer than I expected. Ours over rough dirt roads through barren stretches of desert, past abandoned mines and long-forgotten outposts. The kind of place that feels like it's been left behind by time, and maybe by God. When we pulled up, wasn't much to look at. Just a fenced compound surrounded by a few trailers, guard towers, and a handful of other soldiers milling around. Like they were waiting for something. No insignia on the gates, no welcome banners. Just the sound of the wind whipping through the chain-link site echo. The corporal next to me muttered. I nodded, but kept my eyes peeled. Inside, the mood was heavy. Everyone was tight-lipped, nerves just below the surface. I got handed a small Paquita security briefing and a schedule for the next 2 weeks. The briefing warned us to expect unusual operational parameters and to maintain strict protocol. That was the closest thing to an explanation anyone gave me. My job, security detail, perimeter patrols, and whatever else they needed. I was told to report to Lieutenant Harper, someone I hadn't met yet, after gear check. I found the lieutenant in a makeshift command trailer. She was sharp, early 30s, with tired eyes, but a hard edge. She wasted no time. We're here because of recent anomalies detected underground, she said. Seismic shifts, unexplained energy signatures. It's the kind of thing that can't be chalked up to normal activity. Like what? I asked. She gave me a look that said, do you really want to know? We don't have all the answers, but our intel suggests something active beneath the surface, something not of this world. I laughed dryly. You're kidding? Wished I was, she said, dead serious. That's why we're here. To monitor, contain, and if necessary, engage. That set the tone. Over the next few days, the patrols felt different. The desert at night wasn't just cold, it was silent in a way that made your skin crawl. Sometimes I caught a flicker in the corner of my eyeshadows where there shouldn't be any, or distant lights blinking far off the grid. One night, during a routine sweep of the perimeter, my radio crackled with static, and then a whisper of voice that wasn't on any channel. I froze. Hello, I called out, but there was no answer, just the desert wind. I shook it off as interference, but the unease stuck. Back at the command trailer, Lieutenant Harper pulled me aside. You saw it too, didn't you? I hesitated. I thought it was just my imagination. She nodded. No, something's down there, and it's waking up. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling of my bunk, the desert darkness pressing in from every side. I didn't know what we were dealing with, but I knew this assignment was going to change everything. The Nevada mountains weren't kind to anyone, especially not at night. Cold winds sliced through the thin fabric of our fatigues like knives, and the rocky ground was unforgiving beneath. Our boots, we'd been training hard for weeks-long hours, hiking through jagged cliffs, mastering survival tactics, and running field exercises that pushed us beyond exhaustion. I leaned back against a boulder, trying to catch my breath. Around me, my squad was scattered in small groups, whispering, checking gear, and nursing sore muscles. Sergeant, you sure this is a good idea? Ramirez muttered, flicking a pebble down the slope. I shrugged. Better than sitting in the barracks pretending we're going to get into shape. At least this feels real. Lieutenant Carr, standing a few feet away, nodded in agreement. It's good training. They want us ready for anything out here. I glanced up at the stars clear. Sharp, endless, nothing unusual. Nothing yet. That was about to change. The first sighting came almost by accident. We'd set up a perimeter near a ridge, preparing for the night exercise. I was pacing the perimeter line when I noticed a faint glow against the distant mountains. Light to steady, too bright to be any campfire or vehicle. I pointed it out. "Hey, you see that?" Ramirez squinted. "What the hell is that?" The light shifted suddenly, darting in smooth, unnatural movements. Definitely not a drone. I said Carr came over, peering into the darkness. "Squad, get your binoculars. Let's get a closer look." We crawled closer, staying low and quiet. The glow pulsed rhythmically, blue-white, hovering near the cliff face. Then the shapes appeared. 3 discs. Smooth, metallic, hovering silently. No sound, no exhaust. Just light, like they were breathing. My breath caught. "Are you seeing this?" Ramirez whispered. "Unreal," Carr said suddenly. One of the discs shot up at impossible speed. Disappearing into the night sky in a blink, the others followed. We were frozen. The rest of the night was tense. We didn't speak much.
But the atmosphere
Was electric. Every crackle in the brush made us jump. KO training was eclipsed by something bigger, something we couldn't explain. Around 2 a.m., Carr called for a regroup. "All right, listen up. We saw something out there that changes the game." Ramirez looked at me, eyes wide. "What do you think they want?" I shrugged. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." Over the following nights, sightings became more frequent. Each time, we saw the discs performing maneuvers, looping through canyons, hovering near ridges, sometimes flickering out like ghost lights. One night during a patrol, I almost stumbled into one. It was hovering just a few feet above the ground. Shimmering like a heat wave, the air felt charged. I raised my hand slowly. The light inside the craft pulsed. Softer this time. I wanted to speak, to ask questions. The words caught in my throat. The night of the final trial was different. Carr called us to the base camp, tension high. "We've got orders. Tonight's exercise is a go, but expect the unexpected." I exchanged looks with Ramirez. The whole squad was wired. We set out on a midnight hike up the steepest ridge. The wind was colder. The sky blacker. Then at the summit it happened. The discs appeared again, larger this time. One hovered close enough that I could see the surface smooth, reflective, almost alive. Then a light enveloped me. It wasn't painful, not at all, but it felt like my mind was being pulled inside itself, stretched and examined. I heard a voice not spoken, but understood. "You are chosen." The light faded. I woke up the next morning in the infirmary. Carr was there, his face unreadable. "You all right?" I nodded, but my mouth felt dry. He leaned in. "Anything you want to tell me?" I swallowed hard. "I can't." He gave a slight nod. "Sometimes you don't have a choice." Weeks passed. Orders came down from higher up. I was pulled from regular training, reassigned. No one asked questions. No one spoke about what happened. But I knew I was part of something bigger now. Something I couldn't talk about because I was chosen, and that was the last thing I could say. The days after that night blurred into a mix of routine and restless silence. I was back at the base in the Nevada desert, but everything felt different. The cold concrete walls of the barracks seemed smaller, the fluorescent lights harsher. Training went on. But my mind kept drifting back to the light, the voice on whatever had happened on that ridge. I didn't speak about it. Couldn't, not out loud at least. Then 2 weeks after I woke up in the infirmary. It happened. I was sitting in the common area, staring at the grainy static on the muted television. When the announcement came over the base intercom, Sergeant Daniel Hayes, report to Command Post Alpha, immediate. The voice was clipped, official, no room for argument. My heart kicked up a notch. I wasn't expecting anything, but after those nights on the ridge, every call-out felt like a turning point. I grabbed my jacket and boots and moved quickly through the maze of corridors. The usual hum of the base seemed subdued, almost as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Command Post Alpha was a small, windowless room deep inside the main operations building. I pushed open the heavy metal door and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from a long conference table and several banks of computer monitors displaying satellite feeds, radar blips, and encrypted data streams. I didn't understand. At the head of the table stood a man, tall, sharp, dressed not in fatigues, but a crisp black uniform adorned with silver insignias that gleamed under the dim light. His presence filled the room like a shadow. "Sergeant Hayes," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Yes, sir," I replied. Standing at attention, he studied me carefully, his icy blue eyes locking onto mine. "I'm Colonel Marcus Vance. I oversee certain operations within this facility and beyond." His words hung in the air. Beyond. He nodded slightly. "We don't usually pull soldiers from their units without reason. You have something unusual about you? Something that caught my attention?" I swallowed. "Sir, I'm not sure." "What you mean?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'm talking about what you saw on the ridge." I hesitated, the weight of silence pressing down. "Sergeant, I understand."
If this journey stirred your imagination, there are many more waiting. Be sure to subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next encounter. Until then, sleep well and keep your eyes on the skies.